Hello, welcome back if you've been here before. If you haven't been here before, then welcome to the channel. So, for today's video, as you can see, we're on the Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering official website. So, I thought I would make a quick video of kind of running down a little bit of how to actually get into playing the game. I made a previous video about uh, some of the more intricacies of the game, dealing with different ways to play, websites you could go to help get you started on your journey, as well as how to use those websites. So what we're going to do is, while we're here on the official website, we're going to go over here to Learning Magic, and we're going to go down here to see where it says how to play. So you can actually watch a video here later if you need more detail of how to actually play, and they have several videos here on how to actually set up and what some things are. And we'll go over some of that here. So the basis of Magic is that we have 5 colors: red, blue, black, green, and white. If you do them in the correct order, it'll be WUBRG. And that's the most common thing you'll hear for anybody that is running 5 colors, is they call it WUBRG. So, and you can actually see right here: white, blue, black, red, green. WUBRG. And you need land cards in order to play your spells, or generally do just about anything. Some cards actually have no mana cost, and that is fine. But generally, you need lands in order to play your spells. So, this is kind of a general thing of how we set up everything. And this will be just for like myself versus you kind of thing. This is not for like Commander or anything like that. So you can see the little diagram here of how you can set up your board, your life counter, where your lands are supposed to be, down here below your actual spells up here. Those where artifacts, enchantments, and creatures and planeswalkers will all sit, as well as some battles. Though the battles will be under the control of the opponent. That's how they work. But generally, this is how your setup is going to be. Normally, your deck or library, as it's referred to in the actual game, is going to be off to either the right or the left, and that's how you're going to be drawing your cards as well, with your graveyard typically behind it, so that everything is nice and neat. So let's just kind of go over the quick overview. As you can see, our little demo here. Each player is going to shuffle up your deck, place it face down in front of them, and then draw a hand of 7 cards. And if you are unhappy with that 7-card hand, you may take what we call a mulligan. And now a mulligan is just very simple. All we're going to do is take the 7 cards we drew, put them back into the deck, whether top, bottom, doesn't matter, and we're going to reshuffle the entire deck. Typically, if you're in like a tournament setting, you present it to your opponent to give it a quick shuffle and a cut. If you're playing with like myself or anybody else that you're trying to get into the game, you don't really have to present a cut, but it's not a bad thing to get into the habit. After it's been cut or reshuffled, or maybe someone just tapped the top of it and said you're good. However your setting is set up, you draw a new hand of 7 cards, and you go from there. If that is a hand you wish to keep, then the official rules, as far as it is a 1v1 matchup, is you have to put one of them back into the bottom of the deck. So you pick one out of the 7 cards that you don't feel you need, or you don't feel is going to be helpful for you, and you put it on the bottom of your deck, face down, of course. And then you have to figure out who's going to go first. Probably before that is actually the better option, because whether you're going first or second can help determine whether you should take a mulligan or not. Because if you're on the draw, you have a chance to maybe go ahead and draw that extra land, or creature or whatever you're needing to, get things up and running. If you're on what they call the play, meaning you're going to make the first move, it might be beneficial to make that mulligan. It might not. It kind of depends what deck you're running and a whole bunch of other variables. So that's kind of how that goes. And something that they're not telling you here is when you go first in a 1v1 matchup like this would be, you do not get to draw. Your opponent will get to draw because they get to go second, but you go first and you don't get to draw. If you play something like Commander and there is a total of at least 3 people, then whoever goes first does get to draw. And the rule setting is a little bit different for something like Commander versus a 60 card format 1v1, or even something like Canadian Highlander, which is a completely different format. That too is a 1v1, and that has a lot more details to go into. So you got to find a way to keep your life total tracker here. If you're just playing for fun, you can use your spend down D20 that usually comes with your like pre-release kit, or what we used to call a fat pack, but now they just call them bundles, which is the boxes you can find at Walmart. They're rectangle shaped. They come with 9 or 10 booster packs in them, I think now. Some basic lands, a special foil art promo card that comes from whatever set you're buying it in, and a few other things. I don't see a picture of one here, otherwise I would show. Maybe I'll look one up here in a little bit. So after you decide who's going first and you've got your starting hand, go ahead and play the game. There are a couple of ways to win. There's to reduce their life total to 0 or less. There is making somebody try to draw from a empty library or deck. So if you find a way to remove an opponent's entire deck from the game, whether they what we call mill it, which is cards go from the top of the deck into the graveyard, or you can quite literally exile the entire deck from the game, or in normal terms, remove it from the game. Then when they go to draw from said deck that has a whopping 0, they will automatically lose. Another way would be to do something called infect or poison counters. So there are creatures that have toxic is a recent way that we could do it. And there's also an older mechanic called poison. Either one of those will have the ability to ding your opponent for some damage, but then they also get a what we call a poison counter. If they have 10 or more, they lose the game. So infect is a older way that we used to do things, as well as poison. Toxic is new. If you're playing something like modern, you will see some things that have infect, I'm sure, as well as pioneer. Playing anything that is like standard per se, you'll see more than likely something that says toxic. There's a difference, but that's another rabbit hole to go down to. So there's a couple of different ways you can win the game. We will go down to our next little section here, and it is called casting spells. So in order to cast spells, you have to spend your lands. You get to play 1 land a turn, unless a card says that you're able to play more than 1 land a turn. So in order to use said lands, you have to turn them sideways, and they will make whatever color they are. As their demo shows, we have a red, and a green. And to cast a spell, you must pay mana equal to the symbols on the top right corner of the card. Generic mana cost are represented by a number. So, for instance, In an older video, Kalia of the Vast was talked about quite a bit by me. Kalia of the Vast is a red, a white, a black, and a generic mana. So I would need to have a red, a black, and a white mana minimum to cast her, and then you can use for that generic any mana of any color that you want. So it could be another red, another white, another black. It could be a colorless. If for whatever reason you have green or blue in the deck, you could use the green or the blue. It doesn't matter as long as the actual color identity has been matched first. So you definitely need the red, the white, and the black. To generate mana, you must tap or turn a land sideways to produce a color of mana indicated on the card. Lands are not spells, but you play one during each of your turns for free. So you do not cast a land, it just comes into play by the person wishing to play it. So you could say, I'm going to play a forest, which if we go backwards, this is how you would do it. I'm going to play a forest and I'm going to tap all three of my mana, all three of my land, and I'm going to make a red, and a green, and I'm going to play this next spell. So once you cast something, especially a permanent spell like a creature, artifact, or enchantment, they will stay onto the battlefield unless interacted. So unless somebody has a way to, what we like to say, blow up whatever that thing is, then it's going to stay on said battlefield. So creatures, artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, battles, those are all considered permanents, and they stay onto the battlefield until something removes them from said battlefield, whether they get bounced or destroyed, exiled, anything along those lines will cause the said permanent to go away. What do they have next here? Once cast, instants and sorceries go to your graveyard after you resolve their first effect. So if you play something that is in Foundations, for instance, the latest set, which is going to be Think Twice. It is a generic mana and a blue mana. When you cast that, it is an instant that will come in to the battlefield, so to say, but it's not a permanent, so it's not going to stay. But it'll hover right here for all your opponents or opponent to see, and they have a chance to say yay or nay. Basically, they have a chance to interact with that spell, or they can say that's fine, and they will say it resolves. And that spell being an instant, it says you're able to draw a card. So you cast one and a blue. You lay out your thing twice. You draw your one card, and that's it. It will go to the graveyard because it resolved, is what we like to call that in the game. If nobody has any interaction to stop you from playing said spell, then it will what we call resolve. Moving forward, so here's how each of your turns will go when it's ready for you to take your turn. So you have what we call the beginning phase. You untap all of your cards that are turned sideways as long as they're able to. It gets tricky because some things say they do not untap during the untap step. There are some cards that lock everything down. After you untap everything that can be untapped, you'll resolve anything that says at the beginning of the upkeep. So if there's something that says at the beginning of your upkeep you lose one life and draw a card, you will do that first. So if you have another card from the Foundation set called Phyrexian Arena, it is a black. It is an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep you will lose one life and draw an extra card. So you will do that next, and then you will draw your regular cards for the turn as long as you're permitted. Again, not getting into specifics, there are some cards that say skip your draw step. So we've gone through our untap step. Then you get to what we call the first main phase. During this phase, you're able to play a land from your turn or more if something allows you to play more than one. And you're able to cast any and all spells that you're able to from your hand or even from exile, because there is another caveat that some things can go from exile. Generally, though, in a typical form, form of 1v1, like if you were to buy the Bloom Bros starter kit, you're gonna play things from your hand. So you will cast anything that is not a land is considered casting a spell, whether it be a sorcery, an instant that go to the graveyard after they've done their thing, a artifact, creature, enchantment, planeswalker, battle, anything that is not considered a land is having a mana cost and is considered casting a spell. So after you've cast anything you've wanted to do, now you can choose to go to your combat phase. During this phase is when you can attack your opponent or even their planeswalker, which I can get in more depth later in another video. Something that's very important. If you've ever played something like Yu-Gi-Oh, the last time I played that, which was a very, very long time, you were able to basically attack one at a time. And you could attack creatures as you saw fit. So, I don't know if they've changed the rules since I played, and they very likely have, but things are different in Magic, but not by very much. So in Magic, you don't necessarily attack their creature, you attack your opponent and or their planeswalker. You can even attack your battle, which I can get into battles at a later time. I know I keep bringing them up, but let's not overload everything. So typically you send your 2/2 merfolk creature into your opponent, and your opponent can choose to block with their 1/1 elf, or they can do other things. So maybe they don't block with their elf, but maybe they play a spell to return your 2/2 merfolk back to your hand. Or maybe they do what we call bolt it, which is using a red instant called lightning bolt to deal 3 damage to it, and now it dies because it will have -1 toughness. In the rare instance that they do choose to block, then we will go to and see if they have that breakdown. They do not, but I think that they will in the next phase. So in the next step, they'll go more in depth about how attacking and blocking actually works. If they don't, then I will gladly explain. So the other thing about attackers, though, is you declare all attackers at the same time. So you don't just turn one creature sideways, see what happens. Okay, well that attacks, so now I'm going to attack with this, and so on and so on. No, you would choose all of your attackers, whether it be all 3 out of 5 of your merfolk, 1 of your merfolk, or all 5 of your merfolk. Whatever you're thinking about doing for an attack, you choose all of those creatures at the same time, and they all attack at the same time. That is considered one attacking combat phase. You don't get to send them one at a time and see what happens. That's not the way the game is played. So then we'll move on to what we call our second main phase. So after you've gone through the first basically half of the turn, you've made your combats, then you go to your second main phase. I will say this as well. You don't always have to attack. So you can say, move to second main phase. So typically it is a good idea to kind of announce what you're doing in this game and what phases you're going in so people know if they have to react or not, when to react or not, as well as keeping track of everything yourself so you understand how to actually play. So let's say after main phase 1, we choose not to attack. So we go and say something like, I would like to move to my second main phase. So you still go to a combat phase, but you don't have to do anything. So if you don't have anything you want to do, you think attacking is bad for you, you want to keep up guys to block with, you could just go to second. I'm going to go to attack step, go to combat, go to second main phase. So you don't have to actually attack, but you still get the combat phase, which is important because there are certain things that allow you to do things on combat, such as maybe put a 1/1 counter on all of your guys, or untap your creatures, or any number of things can happen during the combat phase. And unfortunately, your opponent could have something to react to in the combat phase as well. But when you go to your second main phase, it works the same thing as your first main phase. If you haven't already played a land from your first main phase, you may do so on your second, and you can play more spells on your second main phase. Finally, you will get to the end step. At the end step, you will remove any damage from all creatures still in play, resolve any end of the turn effects, and you will pass the turn to your opponent. Anything that took any kind of combat damage but did not die. So if the earlier scenario, I attack you with my 2/2 merfolk creature, and you choose to block with a 1/1 elf creature. Well, my 2/2 will deal 2 damage to your elf will deal 1 damage to my 2/2. Your elf will die because he will have no more defense. My merfolk will live because it will have 1. We get to the end step, and that damage mark, if you will, is now removed. So now he's no longer a 2/1. He's back to his 2/2 self. This is very important to keep note of because there are some ways that you can basically finish off a creature if they've been fortunate or unfortunate enough to attack and or block. You also will go through anything that has a at the end of the turn kind of effect to it. So if something says at the end of the turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. So you would go to your end phase, you would look and see, okay, I have a trigger that is going to go onto what we call the stack. And it's basically a pillar, if you will, of things that are taking game actions. So your enchantment, let's say, will say, hey, we need to check and make sure, do you have anything with a power 4 or greater? Because if so, I have something you can do. So we go to our end step. He says that. We look at our board and go, hey, I have a 4/4 beast creature. So that checks the box for the enchantment to go, okay, you officially have a 4/4 beast creature, and now I will say you get to draw a card. There is actually one other step after the end step, and it's called the cleanup step. The cleanup step is where you finish doing all of your other things, as well as doing something such as going down to your maximum hand size if you have too many cards in hand and no way to keep them all. So in the world of Magic the Gathering, you have a maximum hand size of 7. So with your hand size set at 7, if you have 8 cards in your hand or more, you must discard however many are higher than 7. So if you have 10 cards in hand, you must get rid of 3. If you have 8, you must get rid of 1. Now the choice is all yours. You can discard any of them that you wish to get back down to your maximum hand size of 7. That is completely fine and a legal thing to do. But that is a step that happens before your opponent can officially take their turn. Once you have passed the turn, your opponent will go through the same steps. They will pass the turn back, and you will start this cycle back and forth. You will untap, you will resolve any effects during the upkeep, you will draw, and you will go to main phase, you will go to combat, second main phase, end step, cleanup step, and the turn can be passed. It is a lot to take in, but it is actually relatively easy once you sit down and you've seen and can visualize how everything goes. So here is a more detail of how combat works. So you are going to declare all of your attackers. You're going to choose which of your creatures you'd like to attack your opponent with and tap them. There are some creatures that, if you go back to this website and look up the keyword glossary, have what is called vigilance. Vigilance means they do not have to be turned sideways to be declared an attacker. But as a general rule of thumb, most creatures will be able to turn sideways as a declared attacker. Now, if you just played a 2/2 Merfolk this turn in main phase 1, he cannot attack because he is what we call summoning sick. Now, at that same time, if you have something that has what is called haste, which means that creature can attack and turn sideways or tap the moment it comes into play, he would be able to attack. Or if you have something to give your 2/2 Merfolk haste, now he can attack. So that is some very specific things you have to know. Moving on. So after you have declared attacks, there is a breakdown of your opponent being able to declare how they wish to block. For instance, in our scenario over here for Wizards of the Coast, we are probably using a 1/1 bat over a 2/2 creature over here. So these are probably all 2/2s, and these are probably all 1/1s. So in this situation, we are saying, okay, I'm trying to save some points of damage, but I don't like you having this big army. So I'll block this guy and save 2 points of damage. 2 points of damage are going to hit me in the face. But you know what? I can throw 2 of these 1/1 bats to block one guy. So the defending player will choose any number of untapped creatures that they control and assign them into blocking an attacking creature. So the way that's going to break down is they have everything untapped in this little demonstration, and they're saying, okay, I want these guys to go in here and defend my life. And that's exactly what we have going on. After blockers are declared, if there are no other effects prior to what is considered the damage step, then damage will go through. In this situation, I am correct. They are 1/1 bats. These are 2/2 creatures for the person attacking. So then each creature will deal its power to the other. And if any of them are reduced to 0 or less, they will go to the graveyard as a state-based action after all damage has been assigned. So it all happens basically at the same time. So the way they have their description here is calculating damage. Attackers and blockers damage each other, and unblocked creatures damage the player being attacked or planeswalker or battle. Creatures that have taken damage equal to or greater than their toughness are considered dead and are sent to the graveyard. So after you have made your blocks, anything that has a defense of 0 or less, I guess technically, they are considered dead and are sent to the card graveyard. Now, that also can happen for your opponent's attackers as well. If you look at this demonstration, we were able to deal 2 points of damage to one of their creatures, and we got rid of said creature that we were trying to eliminate from the game. So maybe that is how you're trying to play this game and try to get ahead. It all depends on so many different variables, but this is a general breakdown of how it actually works. They both collide, so to say, like when you play in any kind of sport like football or soccer, just about any physical sport like that, you have a moment where it's like a train wreck. Everybody just collides together, trying to do something. Get the hockey puck, get the soccer ball. We've just kicked off the ball, so now we're trying to run it back for a touchdown. Most physical sports like that is a pretty good way to see how this is just an absolute train wreck of creatures just crashing into each other. There's a whole list of other factors that can determine who dies and who doesn't die. That'll be for a more in-depth video, I believe. So you just got a crash course, if you will, in learning some of the basics of how each turn breaks down and what you could do in each of the game phases. So if you need any kind of help, go to their website here, and you can visit the keyword glossary to learn more about things like our over here on this wonderful Eldrazi creature over here, such as First Strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Lifelink. You can even find out what Ward is, because I know some of you are watching this and you don't know what Ward is. You're going, pay 7 life. Why would I pay 7 life? Well, a really quick breakdown is that's for your opponent. If your opponent tries to target this thing with any kind of spell, they have to pay 7 life. If they try to take control of it, pay 7 life. If they try to do anything that has a target for it, they must pay 7 life. If they do not pay that 7 life ward cost, their spell or ability doesn't work. This is a pretty nasty new ability that they've thrown into the game. Finally, another very good way to get into this game and learn more, other than finding somebody like myself who's been playing for so long. I know so much knowledge and I'm aiming to share it all with you. Jump on Arena and play against the bot. Play against the bot over here and get used to how everything breaks down. They generally have welcome decks assigned that are going to be free when you make your account. You'll get a whole bunch of those. So then you're going to sit down, you're going to battle the bot until you feel confident of taking on an actual person on Arena. And you never know, it could be myself, could be your principal, could be, your mechanic, could be somebody over in Japan. You never know who's on the other end. But you sit down and you can play Magic online as long as you have a good computer, good internet, and learn to play this game visually. Not just with actual cardboard, but you can see digitally how everything flows, how everything moves, how your lands tap. You can see how creatures die, how abilities work. And I won't lie, that's been pretty helpful for me. Pretty helpful for me. So let's kind of look at like how you read a Magic the Gathering card. So in this case, this is going to be a creature. You have your casting cost up here in the top right hand corner. This is the power, the first number. The second number is the defense. So if this second number gets to 0 or less, this creature will be sent to the card graveyard. In this case, this has a single mana opening, so this is probably a 1 mana creature that you can play and have a 2/3. So the card types are artifacts, creatures, lands, enchantments, planeswalkers, and battles, sorceries, and instants. There's quite a list, but you can click on these videos over here and kind of go more in depth. Planeswalkers were a newer thing a handful of years ago, back in original Lorwyn, when we had our first original 5 of Planeswalkers. They were a new permanent type, and they were mixed reviews, I want to say, because I actually have somebody that I know that doesn't like Planeswalkers. He prefers that they were never brought up in the first place. And someone like me, I'm kind of hit or miss. Some of them I really enjoy. Some of them I'm just like, wow, did you really have to make it that overpowered and just backbreaking? Like, really? Man. This video here will show you a little bit more in depth on how you actually can cast your spells, starting the game and taking your turn. So this is a wonderful little handy dandy tutorial video of how to play this game. as well as some of the extra tidbits information I'm able to give you. So I'm hoping that this can help you and get you more excited to come in and play this game. Don't be afraid. Not everybody is a terrible monster. Some people, like myself, we just love the game. And somebody like me, I enjoy helping new players, and I tend to give a whole lot of information really, really quickly. But and it seems a little bit much for them at first, but I definitely try to help new players because I'm all about growing this game. I love playing this game. It's a wonderful hobby for myself, and I love seeing and hearing people go, yeah, it's my first time playing Commander, so I don't know what to do here. And I'm one of those people that goes, all right, well, you're talking to somebody that's been playing the game for a long time. I will gladly help you in any way, shape, or form I can. And I actually did that the other night at my local game store that I went to. I had a new player that was playing a pre-constructed blue-green Merfolk deck. You could go buy it from said game store or Walmart, Target, wherever you're able to find your Magic Gathering products. And he had an absolute blast because he was very unsure about a lot of things, but I was there to help him, especially because in the first round I got obliterated very quickly. Won't lie about that one. I played a deck I probably shouldn't have, and yeah, I got ranched and dumpstered. But I also had a bonus point, so if you got to kill me, so who you got an extra point. So whoever got to kill me got an extra point. So can't really be that upset about it, but the person that killed me didn't win either. So I guess it is what it is on that one. I don't really know how he finished the tournament. I didn't do so well, but I also don't really go to those things to try and win. I go there to play, be around other people, and have some fun with basically fellow nerds. And in this situation, I was just so happy to sit down and have somebody next to me that is new to the game, and I was able to help him and guide him. Now, I also didn't tell him what to make for his plays. I helped him with his triggers and learn how his triggers actually work. I advised him here and there, but I made sure never to interject, so to say, in a way that would compromise the integrity of the game because I was a dead player. And for me, that means I can guide a little bit, but I can't say something like, no, keep that counter spell up because, he's going to do this. I can make advice and go, you probably need to keep that up to have, some kind of protection for your board. But you can also do other things as well. So it was a lot of fun for me to be able to help out a new player and be able to have them just kind of go through and learn so much more. So that was our experience there. It was a lot of fun for me. I love teaching new players how to play the game. I love uh, somebody going, wow, that's cool. I didn't know of all this. And it's just fun for me. Though it did make me giggle, I won't lie, when I opened up my carrier case with my dual decks there, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, how many decks do you have?" I have several with me, but I run a lot more. Oh my! So he felt very, I guess, relaxed on the fact that I was able to help him. So going back to our video here, though, as you can see while I was talking, I just clicked over here to show you a little bit more about Magic the Gathering Arena. It's free to play. I play it from time to time. Even my daughter is starting to learn how to play and use the cards. So you're able to do quite a bit in this game. When you get good enough, you can try the ranking system, and you can get into tournaments for awesome prizes, daily rewards as you build your collection. You can even include yourself into events such as drafts, midweek magic, and so many other special little things that they're having. Generally, some of those you might have to spend a little bit of money, but if you're having that much fun and you enjoy the game, excuse me, then more power to you. So you can unlock 14 unique starter decks through the color challenge, compete against other newcomers in starter deck duels, define your own strategy, and build a deck all of your own. So there is a tutorial that teaches you in the game how to actually play Magic the Gathering, and you will fight the bot as you do that. When you're ready, you feel you know the deck, you feel you know how to do things, step it up. Challenge yourself to fight actual people. You can start by doing unsanctioned, unranked, or you can just jump right into the deep water and start doing ranked duels. Look up online what decks are hot. See if you can't duplicate that deck and practice with it over here in the bot. Then jump in and let's go. Give it absolute craziness. And you never know who you're going to fight in a ranked match. You could fight the next, you know, Brian Kibler Hall of Famer. Who knows? You don't know. It's quite exciting. There's so many different ways to play. There's your typical standard format. There's alchemy. There's historic. Then you have their version of Commander, which is going to be 1v1 style. It's called Brawl. And you have Timeless, which is kind of like Modern. So you have a couple of different ways to play on Arena. Typically, I'll play Standard just to kind of do some things and do some shenanigans here and there. Brawl, it doesn't excite me that it's 1v1. That's just a personal taste of mine. So you can get, here's some of the sets you can get in the game on Arena. Bloombro, Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth, Dusk's Morn, House of Horror, and Magic the Gathering Foundations. So these are all going to be standard legal. They are pretty much going to be legal for any of the ways you wish to play, from standard to timeless. So you've got quite a bit of fun you can have here, all for free, all for free. And see, when you create your Wizards of the Coast account and you make your arena, you can stay tuned because there are cards from promo packs and pre-release kits that have arena codes on them. Now you can only use the code once, so if it's already, like, if your brother, your sister, your buddy, whoever, if they had the card and they've already used it but they gave it to you, if you try to put the code in, it will come up as an invalid code. Once it's been used once, the code cannot be entered for multiple times by any other person. And it cannot be entered multiple times by anybody anyway. So pay attention to that. So if you start getting into Arena, you like how everything goes, maybe it doesn't hurt to go and get some extra codes as far as like from other sets. If you buy for instance, a Bloombro pre-release kit, it will come with a code. You'll get some packs when you enter the code. It's all for free. And you can open them and do all sorts of cool things like that. Well, now, the packs will not necessarily be like the ones you opened. No, they're not going to be every bomb that you hit in your packs in real life. They're probably not going to be the same thing in Arena. So don't expect that. But you will at least get free packs to crack and trigger a whole bunch of other little goodies that can happen in Arena. At the same time, though, if you try to buy another Bloombro kit or somebody gave you their code and you try to enter another one, it will not work. You're able one per a set. So you're only able to enter one pre-release kit code for that set. You could get one for Foundations or Duskmourn or Lord of the Rings, and you could enter any of those codes in, and you will have more packs and stuff to open. You just can't do two from the same set. As we scroll down, we see some of the news and upcoming things heading to Arena. And finally, of course, down here, there's all the follow of Wizards of the Coast and all of these different social medias. So that's kind of how the turns and everything work in a nutshell. This is how to get to Arena and some more helpful information, I believe, to anybody that's still looking to get into this game. I hope this video has been at least some help to you and you had some kind of intrigue or more valuable information. We will continue to break down a lot more of the steps and phases and cards in Magic the Gathering, so there's very little confusion and you know with confidence how to do things, or at the very least where to go to look things up so you know how to do things properly. With all of that said, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for any kind of new things that I may decide to throw out here on the interwebs. You don't have to sit here and listen to this video, but at least hit play and let it run and help me appease the almighty YouTube algorithm. With all of this said, all I got to say left to you, rub that belly for mana, and may your magic dreams come true.